Hey, playmakers. You already know that I believe a playmaker on the basketball or football field is the person who sees the whole field, gets the ball moving, and is able to make a play that positions everybody to win. Well, in life and leadership, it is not very different. In life and leadership, high achievers see the game of life and leadership differently. They know how to not just deal with reality or react to reality, but how to reframe reality and how to consistently reimagine what success really means. We are into the third pillar in my super framework, which is all about shifting your perspective. And so today, the reality that we're talking about shifting, the game that we're seeing a little bit different, is recognizing that perception is not reality, but your perception creates your reality. Sounds like a little bit of a tongue twister, maybe even a little bit of like, what is she really saying? You've heard the saying, your perception creates your reality, but that doesn't mean that it's facts. And oftentimes, in fact, it is fake news. So I have a framework that I'm going to walk you all through today to help you determine is how you're perceiving a situation. Is it facts or is it fake news? Y'all ready? Let's go. I'm Coach Tiffany, the host of the Tiffany Yvonne Show. And if you have not been here with me before, I am on a mission to help high achievers win at work, succeed at home, and design lives they absolutely love. I often will merge concepts from sport, life, and business because I believe they all mirror one another and they create a platform to see that the strategy and the success that we're all looking for really have lessons embedded in everything that we touch in life. So let's hop into it. This session is going to be more like or this episode is going to be more like a coaching session. So I'm not preaching at you. This is not a Sunday sermon style, but I'm actually going to do Q&A based on a real life session that I recently had on this very subject. And so I will tell y'all the questions that they asked me, and I'm going to respond to them accordingly. So the first one was, why do you say perception is not reality? Well, if you've ever seen an incident where two people are experiencing the exact same thing, but they have totally different perspectives on what this thing really is or how this thing should really unfold or what this thing really means, you are seeing in real time perception is not reality. I'll give an example of a marriage where you have a husband and wife who are arguing about something and they both believe that they are right. Goes to show you that like his perception is his reality, her perception is her reality, and there may be something very different in the messy middle that is actually the truth. So we really need to be cognizant of all of the childhood and uh, experiences that we've had as we've grown into adults that shape our perception so that we can determine whether what the truth really is. And I have a framework that I use. I say I help people steer their results. You all know I'm full of acronyms, and so steer is a acronym that stands for something happens and then a thought emerges, right? When that thought emerges, you have some sort of emotion that goes with that, good or bad, good, bad, or indifferent. And then you execute or you fail to execute, and then you get a result. So when you're steering your results, like when you're in the driver's seat of getting the result that you want in life, that's an acronym that I use in order to help people get to the result that they want quicker and to understand that you truly do have the power to shift your perception on anything at any time in order to create the reality that you want. I'll give you an example also of like the gym, going to the gym. You might think, this is going to be hard, or this isn't going to work, or I always go and I don't lose any weight, right? And when you have that thought, uh, any of those thoughts, the emotion that comes up is discouragement, right? I'm not empowered to go to the gym when I have that thought. And then how do you execute? You may go or you may choose not to go, right? And if you do go, do you go up and you show up haphazardly and lackluster, so you actually don't, give your all in the workout? And either if you don't go or you show up only halfway, what's the result you get, right? You're not stronger, you're not leaner, you're not whatever it was that you were going to the gym to get in the first place. And so it becomes a self-defeating um, prophecy, basically, because of the thought that you had before that feeling of discouragement. The thing is that most people don't think about their thoughts. We just wake up with a feeling and then we start to act based on that feeling, and the results that we get or don't get are attributed to those feelings and those actions. But when you are really intentional, a game changer for high achievers is to think about the thought that came before the feeling, right? It's not instinctive. It's not something that we're taught to do. When you think about your thoughts, you're able to really be in the driver's seat and steer your life, right, to the results that you want. So that's the acronym that I use. It's something that I teach in workshops, but I'm gonna give you all a shorter one just so that you can remember and so we can like walk through this practice a few times. Um, let's see. It's the question is, so you have a model that teaches us how to spot this. Tell us more. I've told you a little bit about STEER and the smaller framework that I'm going to walk you through. Something that I learned from some coaches that I really admire is TFAR, right? Thoughts, feelings, actions, results. Your thoughts create your feelings create your actions, and your actions create your results. But again, most people do not think about their thoughts. You take this to like a work environment example and you say, like, oh, this meeting is going to drag, right? That's the thought that just pops in your head. Well, instantly, your feeling is discontentment, maybe irritation. I don't want to go. And so your action may be that you show up in the meeting and you're just zoned out. You show up in the meeting and you're actually on your phone. You show up in the meeting and your face is telling everybody that you don't want to be there. And then what's the result that you get? Well, you didn't really get much out of the meeting. But if instead you start with the end in mind, right? You kind of flip that TFAR to raft, right? So you flip that acronym just backwards. Instead of TFAR, you flip that to RAFT. I say it's a raft, like a raft that you throw out into somebody that's sinking in the water. Like how can they use that raft to save themselves, to pull themselves back up? That's not just something for people in the water, but that's something that when our mind is spiraling, when we're allowing our feelings to take control, we can throw ourselves this raft and use it as a framework to say, well, what's the result that I really want? Well, I want my time to be used efficiently no matter what I'm doing. I want the meetings that I attend to matter, right? So if I want the meetings that I attend to matter, then what's the thought that I must choose in order to ensure that my time is used well, since it's the one thing I can't get more of, and that the meetings that I am in matter? The thought might be, instead of this meeting is going to suck and be a waste of time, the new thought that you can choose might be, if this meeting doesn't feel aligned with the work that I'm called to do, I'm going to ask that my areas of interest be added to the agenda. I'm going to ask the meeting organizer whether or not I actually need to be there, right? I'm going to keep track of the things that were relevant or not relevant to me in order to determine if this is a good use of my time. And when you walk into the meeting with that, well, then how do you feel? You feel empowered. You feel confident. You feel courageous, even because you're going to make a bold move and determine if this is the best use of your time and say something if it's not. And then when you have those feelings, what sort of actions do you take? Well, I just said those, right? Like afterwards, you might pull the meeting host to the side and say, hey, I determined that these things don't really align. What is the best use of my time in these meetings? Or why do you feel it's important for me to be here? Is this really aligned? And then what's the result that you get? Again, good use of your time. So when you start with the end in mind, you're really able to flip it. Um, let's see the next one. It says, I want to give something quick before I read the next question. Here's the other thing that I've often shared with clients. You cannot stop a bird from flying over your head, correct? Right? I don't think any of us can stop a bird from flying over our head. No one really disagrees with that. But can you stop a bird from building a nest in your hair? Yeah, like we're not about to let birds go pick up sticks and start building a nest in our hair. It's just not something that's about to happen. So, in that way, you cannot control what thoughts come into your mind, right? Yeah, they just don't come. They say we have thousands of thoughts per minute that come into our mind, but we do get to choose what we do with them. And when we allow a negative thought to just spiral in our minds, it's like allowing a bird to build a nest in our head. And instead, when we embrace those models, when we steer our thoughts, when we embrace that TFAR model, thoughts create your feelings, feelings create your actions, actions create your results, and flip that if it's the negative thought to what is the result that we want to have and what is the thought that we need to have or need to choose in order to move in the direction of that result, we snatch our power back. Thoughts just come in, can't control it, but we can control the reframe. That's a playmaker move. All right. So then someone asked, why do you always integrate sports, business, and life? And I will again say that I believe that they are mirrors of one another. Sports teach you how to deal with pressure, they teach you how to lead, and they teach you how to rebound from failure. Business teaches you strategy, gives you stamina, and teaches you how to play together as a team. There's not a business on this earth where there is not some sort of team in place. Even my solopreneurs that I work with sometimes, they still have teams behind them, whether they're virtual teams, virtual assistants, someone helping them run the apps that run their business. Like there's always a team aspect to a business. So there's that. And in terms of the game of life, how you think and how you feel determines how you behave and determines the results that you get. And so essentially, it determines whether you are stuck in survival mode or whether you're thriving. And so that triad or that trifecta for me of sport, business, and life is really a powerful mirror, a powerful metaphor for playing to win in life and in business. So, next question. Um, okay, it says, give us a real life example of this in terms of athletes and sports. So I'll say if you are getting ready to play a tough opponent, right? That's just the something that happened. It is neutral. It is neither good or bad, right or wrong. Nothing. It is just the fact is we're getting ready to play an opponent and they seem to be tough. What a thought could be, oh shit, we're not prepared. We're going to lose. Or I don't think we're going to win. But when you feel like you're not going to win, what's the feeling? Defeated, discouraged, afraid. And when you feel defeated, discouraged, or afraid, then what sort of actions do you take? You might play scared. You might overthink everything. You might second guess yourself. You might be filled with doubt. You might not trust your teammates and pass the ball and instead feel like it's all got to be on you. You start playing hero ball and you start making mistakes, any of those things, right? And then what's the result? You don't win. If on the flip side, you think, who is my opponent? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who my opponent is because I'm going to bring my best game. I trust my teammates and we're going to bring our best skills and we're going to give it our all. Then how might you feel? You might feel bold. You might feel empowered. You might feel confident. And when you feel bold, empowered, and confident, what sort of actions do you take? You play together as a team. You don't second guess mistakes. You just go next play is your attitude. And you're not blaming and downtrodden. No, you didn't do this and you didn't do that. Instead, you're just moving on to the next play to get the thing done. And what is the outcome typically? You win the game or you did not go down without a fight, right? So that is how this framework can serve you in a powerful way if you're playing any sport. I always use basketball because it's the sport that I'm most closely aligned to. But if you're playing in any sport, the moment that a negative thought pops in your head and you start running through that TFAR model, it's like literally I put TFAR on everything, like it's Frank's hot sauce, right? So when you get that negative thought in your head, it could be about your own coach. It could be about your own team member. You need to think about that thought. What feeling, action, and result is it leading you to? Because it happens quickly and it happens really subconsciously. And you need to know that you have the power as a high achiever, as a leader in your own life, a leader on your team, that you have the power to start with the end in mind and flip that thought based on the result that you know you want. Okay, I got another question saying, okay, well, give us a corporate example. So you have a big project coming and there's a new system in place. There's, your tech has changed or the way that you all do business is changing from how it used to be. The thought could be, oh, here goes another change. They always changing something and change is going to make things harder for us. When you think the change is going to make things harder for you, how do you feel? Discouraged, right? Annoyed, maybe unheard and unseen if you've been here for a long time doing this work and this change was made without your input. When you feel discouraged, unheard, and unseen, how do you act? Right? Even if you have great work ethic and you're still going to do your absolute best because that's just who you are, instead of it moving with like ease and flow, it now feels like chugging through mud or, chugging through challenge. And so when you feel that way, the actions you take are going to be slower, less efficient, not trusting, maybe siloed, right? And when you're working in a way, especially if you're working with the team or even if you're working individually, but you have to hand something off to the next stakeholder, um, it's going to show up in your attitude. It's going to show up in your mood. It's going to show up in your deliverable. It's going to show up in your mood when you're actually doing your part to hand it off. And what does that typically look like in teams? Like, what result do we get? You get bottlenecks. You get overperforming. You get inefficiencies, you get work that has mistakes possibly, and all of that is not getting you to the results you want, which is to deliver a stellar product in excellence that goes with who you really are as a high achieving leader. If instead you flip that and say change and challenge are constant and uncertainty is change and challenge are constant and uncertainty is certain, but I can do hard things, right? And I can still get to, I'm going to deliver in excellence no matter what I may face. If that's the result that you want, then what thought must you have? Maybe it is change and challenge are constant, but I can do hard things. And when you think that, what feeling do you have? Well, I feel willing, right? I feel willing to give it a try. I feel supported, maybe that I can ask questions about something that I don't know. I feel confident that I'm just gonna persist, right? And when you feel confident and willing and persistent, then what sort of actions do you take? Again, you ask questions, you get help, you do the one next thing, as opposed to worrying about, down the line, the 12 things that can go wrong, you do the one thing that can help you next. And then what sort of results do you get? Likely you get a finished product that is in the best, presented in excellence in the best way that you possibly can. So you delivered something perfectly imperfect. There it goes. All right. Last question. What's something that people can do right now to shift their perspective? Literally start with the end in mind. Literally put your thoughts on trial and literally and asking, like, is this facts or is this fake news? I tease that really smart people, high achievers are always, I asked, did you get your degree from MSU? And they start thinking like, what college is that? And I'm just like making stuff up, right? Because again, when we talked about early on, perception of two people having two very different views on the same thing, oftentimes they're making stuff up. about what the other person thought, what the other person said, what the other person feels, or what the other person this. And truthfully, we are not mind readers, right? Like nobody here is Miss Cleo. So when you're majoring in MSU, when you're making stuff up, being cognizant of the fact that you're doing that by putting your own thoughts on trial, are they facts or fake news, is a major key to say, all right, let me run this through TFAR. Not settling for safe, just sitting in the struggle that you know, let me run this through TFAR. And yeah, starting with the end in mind. What happens if you don't do this? This is the last question and probably my favorite one. You just repeat cycles. And instead of evolving, which we're all meant to do, you start to revolve, right? And as high achievers, we do not want to be running in the same circles, learning the same lesson, hitting the same pattern over and over again. We want to evolve. We want to always be climbing, shifting towards the next thing, and figuring out our next best move, our winning move, like playmakers do. So hopefully this served you, gave you a snippet of what it looks like to shift your perspective in the moment. Pillar 3, perspective shifting, is so powerful. It is underrated, underused, and I think that most people are just not aware that we have the power to absolutely make this happen in our own lives. So I hope that it serves you. A theme song for today will be, I'm going to pick two. I'm going to tease first and say, when I think about how oftentimes as humans we let our feelings lead the way, the song that pops in my head is, I think it's Ella May, Booed Up. Y'all like, well, what is that? Why is that relevant, Coach Tiff? And I'm like, well, there's a line in there where she says, feelings, so caught in my feelings. She said um, something about she can't breathe, can't control her anxiety. And that is what happens when we allow our feelings to run the show. So don't be booed up with your feelings. Instead, think about the thought that came before the feelings. And it's a much more empowered way. But in that lens, I'll use Kanye's Stronger. That what doesn't kill you can only make you stronger. And no matter how you feel about Kanye, the song and its lyrics are real. And so that will be my theme song for today's episode. If you are interested in a workshop where we actually walk through this with your team, your leaders, or even for yourself, if you're interested in individual coaching, I do have a few spaces open for all of the above. Also, hosting keynotes across the country that are inspiring, interactive, and experiential, where we actually put some of these things and concepts into use with you and the leaders that you serve. Until next time, Coach Tiff out. The next episode will be about emphasizing wealth. And I don't spell wealth the regular way. I spell it WELLTH. And so it will include some intriguing perspectives on how we can redefine what wealth really is. Until then, Coach Tiff out. I'll see y'all soon.